Social justice and the marginalized. Marginalization. Marginalization is a social phenomenon by which a particular group or class of people is accorded less importance and is pushed to the margin, or in other words, is segregated from the society. They are denied access to their basic rights and resources like education. They get little opportunities for development available to the rest of the society. Who are marginalized? Marginalized people are the people who speak different language, who practice different religions or follow customs different from majority communities, who are poor and have lower status in the society. Effects of marginalization. The marginalized groups are denied access to various rights, opportunities, and resources that are available to other groups. They are excluded from full participation in the activities of the society. They suffer at the hands of more powerful and dominant section of society. Various groups in India which have suffered marginalization. Scheduled castes, Dalits. The upper castes humiliated the lower caste people and subjected them to discrimination. The lower caste people were considered untouchables, now called Dalits, and were excluded from the mainstream. The marginalization of Dalits violates their basic human rights such as civil, political, social, economic, and cultural rights. Physical segregation of their settlements forces them to live in the most unhygienic conditions. Constitutional provisions for safeguarding the interest of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. To undo the damage done to these groups for centuries, our constitution makers included the following provisions in the constitution. Article 15. Article 15 of the Constitution prohibits any discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, creed, sex, or place of birth. Various concessions and reservations are given to women, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and disabled persons in educational institutions, government jobs, and legislative and local self-government bodies. Article 16. It guarantees equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters of employment under the central or state government. It allows reservation of posts in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. The Supreme Court in 1992 approved of 27% posts in government service to be reserved for other backward classes, OBC. Article 17 of the Constitution. Untouchability has been abolished and has been declared as a punishable offence. The use of public wells, tanks, temples, and public places is open to all. Article 46. It provides that the state should take care of the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the society, and in particular of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. How the fundamental rights help the Dalits. The Constitution grants fundamental rights to all Indians equally. Dalits can invoke or draw on a fundamental right in two ways if they feel that they have been treated badly by some individual or community or even by the government. By insisting on their fundamental rights, they can force the government to recognize the injustice done to them. Through their struggles, the marginalized communities have influenced the government to enforce laws or frame new laws in keeping with the spirit of the fundamental rights. Scheduled tribes or Adivasis in India. Adivasis in India form a group which has been marginalized over the years. The Adivasis is the collective name used for the many tribal peoples of India. Officially, they are termed as scheduled tribes. Problems faced by scheduled tribes. Most of the scheduled tribes still live in rural areas and have been economically exploited. They lead a life of isolation. Due to lack of educational facilities, they are educationally backward. They depend mainly on forest produce for their livelihood. Construction of dams, industrialization, and mining activities have displaced many tribals out of forests. Due to loss of traditional means of livelihood, they work on daily wages as laborers. Their poverty results in illiteracy and malnutrition, which comes in the way of their integration in the society. Steps taken for the upliftment of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Some seats have been reserved for them in educational institutions, government jobs, and in the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabhas. Welfare schemes have been introduced for them to help in their economic development. Government promotes their cultural and handicrafts through exhibitions. Other backward classes, OBCs. The Constitution provides safeguards to promote the interests of the OBCs. Article 340 of the Constitution states that the government shall promote the welfare of the OBCs. The Mandal Commission set up in 1979 recommended that 27% of government jobs and 27 seats in government-run institutions of higher education be reserved for the OBCs. Minorities. Minority implies a group of people who constitute a small percent of the population of a country. A minority may be a linguistic minority or a religious minority. In India, many minority communities remain marginalized in several social fields of our society. To achieve national integration and harmony, some provisions of the Constitution guarantees special rights to the minorities.